forget all the time that this thing is rattling. So somebody next time knock me before I lean on it. Second off, our next panelist happened to be actually a Quake player back in the day before he went to do other things, including starting a little something called cmax.gg marketplace, where you could buy CS servers with SMS, and which was pretty popular. Nowadays he's running a PHZ full stack IT company and also runs the Team PHZ FI Esports team. Please give a cheers for Antti Farason Hätinen. Nobody knocked me. No blame on me. And last, well, it was supposed to be easy, but apparently this time it was slightly difficult for Ens, because we had supposed to have Natu here, but he fell ill today, so he had to cancel. Instead, we got another veteran from the Finnish community with us on the stage. He's done pretty much all of it that you can do here on the esports scene, but most of you Finnish people might know him from his golden voice from the YLE esports broadcasts, or as you more Finnishly know it, Yle. Please give a cheer for Teemu Vabit Hiilinen. Saved it. And with that, I'm gonna take my seat as well, and we are gonna get started. You gentlemen have your microphones in front of you. Why don't you tell a little bit more about your backgrounds, how you ended up where you are right now, starting, for instance, with Antti, a couple of minutes each.
Yes, so thank you, Erik. So my background is that, well, in esports I started in Quake 2 back in '99 or 98 or something like that. And back in the days there were only like 200 players in Finland and maybe a dozen of clans. But then things boomed back in 2002 when CS1 Counter-Strike basically was launched, and suddenly there was more than 10,000 players and community. There wasn't any problems to find any opponents. But anyway, my background is that I'm like a network engineer, so I started to sell Counter-Strike servers, first hosting them by myself, and then I founded the cmax.gg marketplace. Back in 2007, I think that we, at least in my opinion, we managed to acquire 70% market share in Finnish Counter-Strike server market. And then we expanded to Germany, but well, it didn't work out. So unfortunately, the company went bust when the financiers didn't want to put any money into that anymore. And then I had to go to real work. And then I founded the PHZ Full Stack, which is an IT consultancy. Currently, we have 80 employees and 6.7 million euros of revenue. And the idea is that back in the time of cmax.gg, I actually hired Twista, who is nowadays the team manager of Ense, to run team cmax.gg, and they managed to actually rank in the top 3 in the world in Counter-Strike 1.6. And the only teams that they lost to were the Swedes, Fnatic and Ninjas in Pyjamas. But I found out that it was actually the best marketing that I have ever made, because our energy drinks were advertised all over the world in Vietnam and Kazakhstan, even though that we were not even targeting those markets. So the basic idea of our esports team, of Team PHZ, is to do the same thing again. And to promote our IT consultancy, basically to hire more developers to work for us, and then to promote our company values, which are high skill, which is what you need in esports also, But it's not enough. You need to have also good team play, which is our second value. So with good team play, also in software engineering, you can actually get more done than what the best guys in the world can do just by themselves. And then our third value is actually fast feedback, because when you are playing at the top 10 in the world, you need your opponents are actually constantly preparing tactics against your tactics, so you need to constantly evolve your own tactics. So basically, fast feedback is important. Yeah, but that's basically my background.
Yeah, and we spoke a little bit backstage about the CMAX GG servers back as well. Didn't you two use those quite a bit and had experience using them back in the day, at the old assembly LAN parties and stuff like that?
Yeah, we did. But if you ask me how it all started, my father bought me Commodore 64 in 1983, and it's been steady downfall ever since. But on esports, I came to the scene start of 20s as a player, and actually, I think I'm only one here who has won assembly once. So, thank you about that. It was 2004 and Call of Duty 1 15 years ago, but still. And back in the days, there wasn't any money, really. You couldn't make money like now you get a millionaire by just playing. And I had a family, kids and stuff, so you had to make a choice between those, and it was the family, of course. But I didn't abandon the esports. I came back as a caster, and we made the first television set ever in Finland in 2006. It was Game TV. I don't know if you've been watching it ever. It was under the channel of Digiviihde, which basically was either X-rated movies or me casting Counter-Strike. And there wasn't any schedule, so it was 50-50. Make your pick. So, poor man. Then Wiley started 5 years ago, and I was the caster there, and it has been a steady rise ever since. And esports really has boomed in last 5 years. The last hour when Enzo was playing in Katowice, we had 225,000 viewers watching the Enzo playing in Yle Arena. It wasn't even in terrestrial television, so that was a record for us. So it's really good.
Yeah, and what about you, Janus?
I actually used, as an ex-Counter-Strike player, I used the CMAX GG a lot. I also used Digiviihde a lot, or used to use, so especially for Teemu's great broadcasts, of course, naturally. So I started somewhere around 2000. We had this really cool internet cafe in Lappeenranta, where I'm originally from. So back in the days, you had a kind of modem connection. Of course, it was laggy, and you didn't quite have a good computer. And if you explained to your parents that, hey, there's this cool game, I want to get it, and let's get that internet connection that cost like 5,000 to install and everything, they were like, nope. So we went to internet cafes to play Counter-Strike. It was fun, and then when the infrastructure started to develop, we kind of got the ADSL and all that sort of stuff and better computer at home, so I could actually start playing Counter-Strike for real. And that's kind of the main point. I wanted to be still at night when I wake up screaming, I'm still the world's best Counter-Strike player, but that's probably not meant to be at this point. So, but I still I understand the drive the drive that the young people have to become the world's best player. It's like in any other sports as well. So then when I was studying in Lappeenranta University of Technology, I was still playing games, very interested in esports, and finally when I graduated, I noticed that, well, I've been working, I haven't been actually playing that much, and then I got this great opportunity from Kajaani University of Applied Sciences, where they were looking for project manager for their new starting bachelor's degree in esports, like whole new degree program in Finland and pretty much in all Europe and in the whole world. So I just thought, well, what the hell, why not try? So then I applied to that and I got in. And now I've been doing that for a year and I got a bunch of marvelous students last autumn to start in the new esports program. And now we're developing the program with the students and also coming up with all kind of fun esports activities and so on. So that's kind of my introduction, I guess.
And speaking of those students, haven't a bunch of them actually gone already while they're in the first year to big companies as a player or as a worker, as it is?
One of those, my students works for ENS, and one actually, a bunch of them work for the team PHC. So at that sense, I could say that the Finnish scene is quite connected, I would say. So, which is good. So, yeah, even though they're first grader, I mean freshmen, they're still doing like a lot of great stuff, and they know what they want, what kind of career they want to pursue in esports.
Yeah, and Antti, if I don't remember absolutely wrongly, isn't one of them also the team manager at you at the moment?
Yes, Nobots, or Jesse Honkanen, is our team manager, and he has been doing great work in organizing the students and also acquiring at least one world champion, or a domestic, Aleksi Sillanpää. And we are basically building the team. Actually we started this esports to communicate our esports background by actually we sponsored Have You, so it was Have You PHZ Have You. Yeah, but anyway, I found out that also when we were running the team CMAX GGX, you get better visibility by having your own team. So now we are building the organization. Back in the days in 2007, we had actually 5 teams, 2 Finnish teams, one in Counter-Strike 1.6, one in Counter-Strike Source, and then 3 teams in Germany, 1 girls team, 1 ESL Pro Series Counter-Strike Source team, and then also 1.6 team. And we are trying to build at least 5 teams, or run 5 teams at the same time.
That's quite a task. Speaking of those old times, Teemu, you mentioned that the boom started to happen and then you were able to start doing casting work and all this stuff. But the boom happened not only in Finland but abroad, globally. The new esports scene and industry started to grow a little bit faster and faster, and about 5 years ago it just boomed. And the prize money started to rise up, and for those who aren't aware at the moment, the prize monies are in several $1 million. I think the highest has been over 20 million. I don't remember the exact values. But what I was thinking at the moment, where do you think the linchpin was? What was the thing that actually made the growth happen, instead of it just being something underground, people doing it in their own free time, to grow into something that you can do as your career, like you've been doing it, or at least as a side career?
Yeah, it was StarCraft 2, absolutely. If you name one game which started all the esports, what is now, it's StarCraft 2. Blizzard was very professional how they made the game, and there was first big prize pools was in StarCraft 2, and it started this new era of esports.
So StarCraft itself was the first that started to launch it. Was there any other specific points that made the whole industry start exploding, or was it just natural from there? Any thoughts from anyone?
I think it was more natural from that point when I remember first DreamHack Winter, it was like 2011 when Santeri Naamalahtinen won the world tournament, and there was celebrations that they have now over 20,000 concurrent viewers, and that was like, whoa, at that time. And from that point, it just started growing by making it more professional. And there was money coming from there, also not only for the players, but also for the reporters, also for the casters. So the ecosystem was building up. And now we have workers in Ilta-Sanomat, and HLTV has paid workers, and that helps the people to know what this is.
Yeah, well, my own personal background is I started as a viewer, and then I never was good enough to become a player, but I've started to dip into the the esports industry by doing casting and all this sort of stuff, which would not have been possible in the scale I started in at LAN events or bigger LAN events from the get-go. So it's already clear that it started to grow. However, speaking of this whole getting into how I got into it, and you mentioned the Ilta-Sanomas, HLTV, all these workers getting paid for it. If you were to look for getting into this sort of space at this point, what do you guys think a person needs in their skill set? Like, what is the primary thing that you need to have to actually be able to get into the esports industry?
I'll go a little bit back to the previous question as well. What was the linchpin or what happened with esports? I think also one part of it is that the infrastructure started to build up also. Like in every country, there's better internets, better computers, and they became more available to everyone as well. So not only for us here in Finland or Nordic countries. So when when it actually grows in the world, it starts to grow everywhere else. I mean, we're not in Finland responsible for growing esports. So esports grows, then it grows somewhere else, then it comes to Finland. That's how I believe. So I think infrastructure, and if we go like way back, I think it's because of the internet and the connectivity and the communities that the people build around esports. So I think that's one of the key points as well.
A quick side question to this one, actually, before we come back to this, because I want to hear your thoughts on the question as well. You mentioned this whole infrastructure building. Do you think that now, since internet is starting to become more wide and wide available worldwide, even countries that haven't been as developed as Nordic countries or US or something like that, for instance, South America, could start becoming the next rising stages of esports?
Well, if I can answer this, yeah. Well, obviously, if there's availability for esports and it's promoted and people want to try it and are let to, like, kind of, the people are allowed to try it, of course, I see there's a huge potential in also not so developed countries.
I can also answer that from technical point of view. So the main thing, at least for Quake players and also for other esports players, is the ping or the network latency. And then, the only reason why I was able to win some games was that I was actually living in Otaniemi, where there was like a 100 megabit, like a direct connection to the core servers, and I had like 30 milliseconds less ping than anybody else. But the same trend is actually happening at the moment, and our company is actually trying to ride that of actually 5G networks bring LAN pings also to the mobile networks. So in a few years you will have like 10 millisecond pings or network latencies in your mobile phone, and then that will actually boom also the mobile game esports scene. And of course, most of the world they really don't have like a fixed connections. So that will make also some new countries like Africa and South America and Southeast Asia to boom in esports.
Yeah, I agree. The future of esports is definitely going to be mobile, because the phones are cheaper than PC. You can have your own phone, you can play, and if you just check in Finland, I don't know in any other countries, but in Finland, if you check the player parameter that was launched like 2 months ago, from 10 to 20-year-old in Finland, 94% plays weekly something, and they play mainly on mobile games. So back in the days when it was 1983 when I started playing, I was the weird guy who plays computer games. Now, the one who doesn't play is the weird guy.
And actually, I want to add to that back in 2007, when we had the German office, actually we did a quick market survey of Counter-Strike market back then, and it turned out that in Germany back in 2007, there were more than 500,000 Counter-Strike players. In Finland, there was 10,000, and in Sweden, something like maybe 40,000. And Germany was the biggest country in Counter-Strike. Then there was USA, China, France, and the biggest. Then we actually managed to do some small cooperation with ESL back in days with Jens Hilgers, who was the CEO, and he explained to me their ESL company history, that they attended back in, I don't know, 2002 or something like that, to some CeBIT or some other like a exhibition, and then Intel like a marketing directives came to their stand and said that, okay, we want to sell these new processors. We give you a few million euros to do some big marketing stuff. And then basically ever after that, they have been running several TV channels and big marketing events all over Central Europe. And then basically the driver for esports or the money and the prize money comes, it previously came and is maybe still coming from the hardware manufacturers, because the hardware manufacturers, they don't have any other customers nowadays than the players who want to buy some fast graphic adapters and stuff like that. Nowadays maybe Bitcoin miners, but that's also declining. But in the future, that will decline when more, actually the advertisers have less or more difficulties to address the young people, because the young people, they don't really watch TV, but they play games. So that becomes like a natural channel for advertisers to like reach out the younger generation. So that's the reason why they are pumping in advertisement money also in esports, like big brands like Red Bull and energy drink companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree also on the part that the mobile esports has the biggest potential of ever, like it could potentially make the most money out of the whole esports. And if we think like India, no one, not very many people can afford a PC, but everyone has a phone. So if you get into those markets, if you can do the esports well there, you could probably get a whole lot of customers to play your esports games. And the first things that the kids play with today, children, it's some kind of tablet or a phone or something like that. So it's not likely to be the PlayStation or the handheld console. So it's going to be something like an iPad or whatever, Huawei Media Pad, or so I've seen, at least.
Yeah, I just started to think of a little sentence that arrived last November regarding a certain mobile hack and slash. You might have heard of it. Don't you have phones? Yes. But yeah, speaking of this whole mobile esports thing, because it started to grow. We've seen Clash Royale started to try to build some sort of esports leagues and things like that. There's been Critical Ops from Finland. Vain Glory has been from Mega Evil Corp. But those haven't really gone to the big stages yet. And on that topic as well, there's a lot of games that try to become esports, but they fail at it. And my question at this point then is, what would you guys think is the main reason why these games don't actually make it? And what would be your advice for these game makers that, hey, this is the thing that you need to think about when you want to create an esports game? You seem to have something on your mind.
Yeah, basically, you can have the best game for the esports, but if you don't have billions, then your game won't be esports. It's so tough market. You have to have the ecosystem, you have to build it, you have to pay for the prices, you have to pay for get the players, and so it's really, really hard market at the moment. there's so many big players, and they won't let you in.
Yeah, let's. If you kind of are planning a game, and you want to make it esports, for me as a player, the most important thing is the game mechanics. How the game mechanically works. Is there a delay when you press the button, and how the game actually plays out? So that's the key issue for me. Counter-Strike was good because it worked. It felt like you're in control. Everything you do is in your hands. If you make a mistake, it's your fault, not the game's fault. So I think the mechanics is one big thing when you have in mind if you think about game development side, if you want an esports game. So start with that. Maybe the billions will follow, I don't know.
Well, if you look at the player Uncrown Battlegrounds, full of bugs, basically.
True.
And still one of the biggest esports games, because they have the money to build it.
True. So if you don't have the mechanics, have the money.
As part of my group of companies, I have also PHZ Game Studios, and the core idea is actually to develop esports games. And my approach, my approach for that is that I totally agree with the game mechanics, because back as a Quake 2 player, I don't know how many of you have been playing that. There's this Deathmatch 1 DM1 map, which is so complex that I heard just a few years ago that after 15 years people had still found new, well, they were basically bugs. But anyway, competitive aspects of that one map that they were still able to leverage when playing competitively. So if you have this if you develop a game where the mechanics, they can be bugs or some other features where the gameplay itself, when you play against real human players, will get so complex that there's no single strategy that you can use to win. That's of course the salt and like a fun part why people are playing against other people and not computers. Also, when you're playing with a team against another team, it's a totally different game when you are playing a single player versus single player. So that's at least one thing.
Yeah, and maybe as an addition, previously when you think about Counter-Strike, the community built itself kind of. Of course, there were some kind of maybe people pulling the ropes there, but nowadays if you make an esports game, it's really hard maybe to get the community committed to the game. So maybe you need these kind of people like the community managers and so on. So
Could be we have a job available. Yeah, you had something.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I can elaborate on my ideas quite a lot on this aspect. So actually, what I've been talking to people actually are there's lots of opinions that how to start a successful esports game is start with the community and start with not hiring the developers or the designers, but hiring the community manager. So that's so because you need to have the community. So to, for example, Counter-Strike, it was not built by Valve. It's a mod on Half-Life 2, and then just actually last week, there of course Dota 2. I think that's also a mod, but now there's a big movement on Dota 2 auto chess that people are starting to play mod on mod instead of the previous mod. So of course, so there's a clear trend that when the community can interact and contribute to the game, that's actually one huge aspect of the esports community, how at least some games have been very successful in the past.
Yeah, but if you think of Counter-Strike, in '99, it's going to be 20 years this year, Counter-Strike. But in the '99, there wasn't any competition at all. So it was easy to grow. It was the first FPS game. Well, it's not the first, but the first you can compete in teams that it was built quite good. Is my mic on? Yep. Yeah. Somebody's censoring me here. Yeah. So, and if you go now to the market, if you think about the Battle Royale, there was the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds started it, and they got their market share. And when I watched it last year at the E3, there was like 15 new Battle Royale games coming out. It's not going to work. There's not so much market for the 15 games. And we see that there's like 3 left now. It's going to be PlayerUnknown's Battleground, Fortnite, and Apex.
Yeah, there's just not enough players for all these games, pretty much. Did you have something you wanted to add to this?
I forgot it.
Okay. Well, you have.
Yeah, I can add to that because of course the money part is of course a big part of the equation. So also as a part of my group of companies, we have this Apprian automated pricing engine, and my good friend and our business development manager Arto Käykö explained to me the basic business model of a gaming company back in Kajaani when we were at the Northern Game Summit. So basic equation goes so that you have the you need to buy the players in unless they are viral, so like Counter-Strike. So you have the user acquisition costs that are getting higher and higher, so like $5 to $8 or even more than $10 from Facebook to buy one user to play your game. But then comes the other part of the equation, which is the lifetime value of the player. And then on mobile games, you have the advertisement revenue, then you have the in-app revenue. And well, but because I used to run the Counter-Strike marketplace, I know quite a lot about esports monetization models that are not very commonly known. So, so if you think about, for example, my business of running Counter-Strike servers and business of Valve as a game developer, so Valve got $10 for one Half-Life license. So that's the revenue that the game developer got for one player to play Counter-Strike. But as a server provider, I was selling Counter-Strike servers for €30 per month. So that's times 12 months is €360 to sell the server for the players playing competitive games or tournament matches. And then if you compare €10 or dollars to 360, there's a clear difference who is making the money in esports. They are the hosting companies, not the game developer itself. And then actually we were adding also the advertisement on the our servers. So we had actually 1/3 of our company revenue at one point came from Kotipizza or pizza advertisements on Counter-Strike servers. Unfortunately, I called to Gabe Newell and he forbid me to run that business because Valve just next month launched the same advertisement service, but then quickly after that they actually shut it down. So yeah, that was unfortunate. Then actually one interesting business model for esports is actually anti-cheat, because nobody likes when there are some cheating players who win you. You need to have the esports game mostly to be skill-based, so that you just can't buy stuff so that you win. Of course, Supercell is doing this pay-to-win stuff that looks like esports, but it really isn't. If you go purely a skill-based esports game, then the important thing is to have a very good anti-cheat, especially if there are cheating players. So one way, what was actually Valve's business model was that they had Valve anti-cheat, so they banned some players using some simple cheats, and then the player had to buy a new license for $10. So the better your anti-cheat was, the more money the game company basically made, but then you had to actually invest in building a very good anti-cheat for your game.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never actually thought of it that way, kind of. So, because all I thought was, why can't Valve make a good anti-cheat themselves? It doesn't work because the Valve anti-cheat was quite bad. I mean, as you said, it maybe the simplest cheats were blocked, but then again, not the best ones, or not even maybe the moderate ones. So yeah, that's true. But yeah, definitely, if you ban the players, they have to buy the new game. So yeah, true.
Yeah, but now the Counter-Strike is free to play.
Yes,
and they
true.
make money from the skins.
True. So they kind of redeveloped their monetization model for the whole game, and the skins is a huge model for games in general, like how to make money. So give the game for free and make the money somewhere else within microtransactions in game. So yes.
Actually, I have a little question and thought to build upon this. The skin setup in Counter-Strike is through loot boxes, as it is in Overwatch, as it is in Supercell's games, as you mentioned. I think, if I'm not wrong, League of Legends has it as well, in some way or form, maybe. In any case, it's pretty prevalent to have these loot boxes in the game to monetize the game. And, well, in CSGO, it made a huge uproar a couple of years back. The whole, it started to actually become really, it started to affect negatively outside of just the game. It started to affect people's life because they started to gamble those skins away, and the monetary value of the skins rose really high. For those who are not aware, some of the skins can be sold for 5-figure numbers. So my thought here is, in general, what do you guys think of these loot boxes? Is it a good thing to have in an esports game, or is there something that could be improved, changed? What do you think?
Since I'm also from the era that didn't have those loot boxes, so I can live without the loot boxes or everything like that. So they don't have to be there. But and yeah, you could kind of relate it to gambling when people buy those boxes and then try to get, like, you never know what you're gonna get. So I think there should be somewhere at least a sign that tells you the percentages, that like how likely are you gonna get the knife. Are there somewhere, or like
Isn't that forced in China nowadays?
I think it's forced.
You can Google it.
Okay, so if it's somewhere available, because I think it should be somewhere available, like legal-wise.
I don't know if it's illegal, but you can Google it. And somebody has calculated those boxes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, so my personal opinion is that you don't need them, but okay, well, it's sometimes fun to put a couple of euros there. So.
But with good skin, you're a better player.
True.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I buy the knives from the marketplace to make myself better.
Only reason I'm good.
I see it only as one monetization model on top of the others. So, yeah, if the well, it's well, there's lots of gambling games. You can play poker or loot boxes. Well, if you like that, yeah. That's of course something to do. Of course, there are in certain countries there are some legal problems, like in Finland. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it might help. I mean, CSGO got pretty big because of the skin thing, and then it started to go into the negatives. Other games have just influenced it from the get-go. So.
Yeah, because what I think is that it didn't actually bring more Counter-Strike players. But it actually, I think, brought more people to the community, in a sense that there's gambling in this one. So people just don't play it, but gamble for the skins. So they get the skins from the marketplace and they gamble with it. So you didn't have to buy the game to gamble with the skins, I think. So you can just buy skins from the marketplace, get them, and gamble with them. So.
And betting is huge in esports. In Finland, the Veikkaus told that it's the second biggest. Just after the ice hockey comes esports. So betting is coming huge. Real money, loot boxes, everything. And when you said that the hardware makers pays more for the sponsors, the biggest sponsors at the moment in esports are betting sites. If you check any top 10 team, they have like Unibet or Ritsk or whatever on their shirts.
Yeah, I've seen those on someone. Whenever I watch a CS major, especially in the official streams, I see the Betway thingy coming up that they're trying to advertise here for the play to get more viewers. And I remember when I started playing CS, I started watching CS streams. A lot of the content there was just straight up unboxing. Let me unbox hundreds of boxes and see if I get a knife. And there's still a lot of those videos up on YouTube as well. So it started to build some sort of community, but it was not the player side of the community. It was more like the
the gambling side of the community, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out the word like viewer side maybe more. Like people who might not be interested in playing but interested in viewing.
Yeah. Now, when you asked at first what was the reason that esports is now as big, I think you actually answered it there as well, because back in the days there wasn't any Twitch. You couldn't watch gaming unless you went to the live event or watch it from YouTube or check from the demos or something like that. But now we have Twitch TV and the competitors are coming in, like YouTube is trying to build up. It's quite shit, I know. But at the Facebook
as well.
Don't watch it.
Yep, please no. But yeah, that's a good one actually to mention, the Twitch thing and how it started to grow and build the whole viewing community, which then got players into it. Actually, how I got into esports was, I remember you mentioned in an interview once that one of your favorite moments of casting was the Cologne 2014, was it? With Angel Dust, casting the CS Major on Yle. Yeah, that was the first CS I ever watched on the TV. And that got me into CS back in the day as well.
Did you like live under a rock, or how did you not know CS? Come on.
I knew CS, but I hadn't played it, but that got my interest sparked.
Okay, fair enough. I forgive you.
What is your rank now?
Not great enough. And I haven't played CS too much lately. I moved on to Siege later on. But
Blasphemy.
shush you. But yeah, actually speaking of this whole player thingy, because how I got into starting to play was because of you, and a lot of the players, they look up to these professional players that are playing there, and they will, I want to be the next Forest, or I want to be the next Faker, or I want to be the next Fatality, what have you. These big names. And I know there's some people in the audience maybe watching the stream who might be interested in knowing this. So if you want to become a player today, you want to become a professional player, what do you need to focus on? What have you guys noticed that you need to focus on when you want to become a professional player and get money playing the game?
I think this would be a great question for a professional player. But when thinking back to my gaming career, I mean, motivation is of course the kind of biggest one, and yeah, that's basically it. Motivation and maybe balanced, healthy lifestyle also, I think, helps it as well. So make the gaming and make your gameplay, make it efficient, so that there are hundreds of players who have tens and tens of thousands of hours, but they go nowhere because they don't do the right stuff. So maybe try to find a way that suits you in gaming, and playing video games. And if something doesn't work, change it. Do something. Change your rhythm or repertoire, or sleep more, or eat healthier. I don't know. That's what I would say to younger me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically what we need now is to make the hobby more professional. If you take your 6-year-old son or girl to basketball, there's going to be a basketball coach, right? He knows how to play basketball. But now the 6-year-old goes to the server and doesn't know how to play. He doesn't know where to focus. He has the motivation, right? He wants to win because everybody wants to win, right? Right? Nobody plays for losing.
No.
But we have to make it more professional, and that's what we need, and that's what is building up at the moment. We have lots of clubs who offer esports training, and they make you to focus on the right things, so you don't have to practice 10 years for nothing. Well, you can get your aim accurate, but that's like all of it. But if you really want to be esports professional, go to school, get a nice job, because there's still more NHL professionals in Finland than there's esports professionals in Finland. Sorry.
Yeah, back in the days, before playing Quake 2, actually I was in archery, and I won some. I was actually third in the Finnish championships under 18-year-olders. And then if I reflect that to the like a normal sports to esports, they are pretty much the same. Especially when you get close to the top ranks, there's actually all the players or the athletes might have the same like a physical and abilities or skills. But okay, there are actually two things. Okay, first of all, you have to have the talent. So when you're playing at the top ranks, some people just stand out. They're just better than the others, and well, basically you can't compete at that point. Actually, in esports, at least in Quake, where the reaction times are the most important thing. Not so in Counter-Strike. Actually, I learned that if you are 15, you are much better than when you are at your 20s, because your reaction time starts to get slower and slower, and then you just can't win the 15-year-olders anymore. And then, but then at certain point, also the psychological side comes into the equation. So when you are playing at the major finals, at some point, some teams just like drop, or they just can't make it because they start to think about the winning. But you need to have this also mental coaching at that stage. I don't know, are you doing that in Kajaani, or do you have plans for that?
Well, I have to say that Finland is top one in mental coaching, because the Astralis team is mentored by Mia Stelbeck.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention about that whole Astralis thingy, but since, well, for those who are not in the know, the current top one CSGO team is Astralis, and their rise to stardom actually started right after they got a mental coach, Mia Stelberg. So
yeah, they were called Choke-Tralis before that, because every time they made it to the finals and then they choked, so they was called Choke-Tralis.
I remember this, yes.
Yeah.
I can confirm.
Even I remember this, and I'm a youngling.
Yeah, good. But yes, as you both said, the mental part is very important. And what you said about the reflexes, there was this Quake player, I think it was called Thresh. I don't remember the real name.
You're talking about the very first professional.
Very first,
yeah, that was
professional player.
Yeah, it was Thresh.
Played under the nickname of Thresh, who won the John Carmack's Ferrari from Quake and something. And he said at some in a video that's actually available, I think, in Netflix as well. It's called Esports Explained, if anyone wants to watch it. It's a pretty good short document. He said that if you at any point in the game have to rely on your reflexes, there was something you did wrong to end up in that situation, so you had to rely on your reflexes. So that's also probably one part of the how you move and how you play game under pressure. So you can't only like rely on your reflexes. You have to have the mental strength to do maybe bold stuff in the server to get yourself in a good positions, and then you don't need to rely on the reflexes that much. So yeah.
I was also playing Magic the Gathering, and also in esports, it's about how many mistakes you make in the game. You might be able to make one mistake, but if you make two, then you lose.
Yeah, and going a little bit back to this Thresh thingy, because it's also compounds on what you said. I remember reading an interview about him at some point, and what he said, what people actually said when they were playing against him, and what he said that he did was that when he was playing, he would start thinking, where can the opponent be at this moment? And then he started predicting where the opponent is. And the opponent just felt that they couldn't go anywhere because he was there waiting with a rocket, or he just railgunned him straight off the gate, or what have you. He was just outsmarting the opponent, and he didn't have to rely on the aim.
Yeah, it said in the video that whereas other players relied on their pure aim, Thresh was actually controlling the map, and he had the map control and everything like that. So he played the game in on other aspects than the actual aiming and reflexes. So he like kind of had this kind of multi-layered thinking maybe in his game, where others just thought that when I see the guy, I'm just gonna shoot him, but he thought like a couple of steps further from that.
Yeah, pretty much started what nowadays is one of the basic things: read your enemy.
Then I could actually elaborate on other roles in esports, like a team manager and coaches, and yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So actually, in my opinion, how I see, based on my experience from back in 2007, when we were sponsoring also some German teams, my MTV. Back in the days, they were already in 2007 in the top 10 ESL Pro Series. The top 10 teams, I think that budgets were more than 1 million euros already back in 2007. And the biggest teams were close to 10 million. And how I saw how the organizations were working back then and are still working, they were media selling organizations. So they were basically selling content, so advertisement to their content, which was the esports team and how they played. So sponsorship, but basically they were selling advertisement space. So this is so important to know that who are your customers, what are you selling to them, where your money comes from. So there's of course many esports hobbyists who just want to play the game, but when you get to the organization side, you are not actually playing the game, but you are selling advertisement or some other or you are doing some other monetization.
So basically, you are the product at that point.
Yeah, that is a discussion I would like to continue, but we are running a little short on time, so I want to have a quick fire round of answers for this next one before we move on to questions from the audience and stream. So Santeri there at the back, be prepared to send me some questions sooner or later. But, oh shit, it's gonna be there. Well, I'm gonna throw a quick one for you. Well, we can start with this one, but there's another. Is it easy for ants?
Sometimes it's even hard to quite get the grasp how easy it actually is for, and so yeah, I think it is definitely quite easy.
Yeah, dance put that in upperbelt, like they say.
Yeah, of course it's well, it's not easy to build a top 10
I
team
don't think
in the world.
Antti knows this meme.
Yeah. Yeah, but Twist and all the players, they are really talented, and I think that they have the things, the thing there now working quite well.
Actually, since you started talking a little bit about that, although you missed the meme that we were memeing here, I have one more question for you guys is, where do you see the industry going? We've seen, like, in the future, next 5 years, maybe 10, if we want to really polish the crystal ball. We spoke about the mental coaches, how they improve the gameplay. We spoke about where it all started from. And now you mentioned how ENCE has this really stable team, really good infrastructure. Do you see this sort of thing going on in the future? Where do you see the industry going in the next years?
From players, if you look from the players, mikä on näkökulma? No niin.
Perspective,
yeah. And my mic is still messing me up. But there's going to be a lot of different clubs where you can get proper training. There will be schools who has more esports in there. And it's going to grow because there will be more players. It will be more competitive. There will be more infrastructure around it.
Haluatko heittää mikkisi eteenpäin?
Rikoin mikin, ihan perinteinen ratkaisu. So there will be a lot more different where you can get money from it, and the infrastructure will build up. There going to be reporters. It's going to be like any other sports like it is now, but it's going to drive past the ice hockey in Finland, and it's going to be number one, and then the bubble will break.
Okay, since I got the mic, I guess I'm gonna continue. So, yeah, if you look at the researches that are done and like industry research, it's growing and it's predicted to grow. Well, the predictions go up until maybe 2022, but it's still growing a lot. I think it's gonna, at some point, it's gonna get to more mature stage where the growth isn't that big yet, but still for now it's like skyrocketing. So I would definitely see as well that there will be more opportunities for this, like to engage in esports, to start esports, start playing games and so on. And I believe also that there will be a lot more places to work in the industry of esports, and in many kind of ways, as in any business, like in marketing sector, in coaching, in event management, in anything, like kind of there will be positions open for esports. That's what I believe at least.
Yeah, Finland is actually something like 10 to 15 years behind Central Europe in esports. So things that are happening here now happened already long ago in Germany, and then US and China and South Korea. But anyway, 10 years ago I forecasted that in 10 years, that has already passed, the biggest esports players will be more famous than the biggest football players. That hasn't yet happened, but that's the direction where esports is going. So it will be bigger. And I think that the next, after 5G, as we discussed, there will be a big boom that will make esports even bigger.
Awesome. Thank you all three for answering the question, and thank you all three for being here at the panel. We're gonna move on to this Q&A section, and so hopefully you guys are still ready to talk a little bit more. I'm gonna start off with the questions back there, so you guys can think. Soon do we actually have you able to send them questions up there? I need to ask Sandri from way back. Yes, so if you want to have a question answered, throw it up there and we'll see it in a moment. And the first one, for esports, is there a point in attempting to emulate traditional sports? So this good old, is esports sports and can we emulate it?
We are not talking about that subject. We have been talking about like 15 years, is esports sports? No, it's not, because there's no blood and fart and sweat. So it is sport, like any other sport, it is sports.
Yeah, I think the driving force behind it, as in sports, is business. So in that sense, they're quite similar. So yeah, as you said, there might be some gross motor skills lacking in esports, so the players are not jumping around or doing anything like that. But or sometimes they are when they win a game, and they're sweating. I sweat like a pig sometimes when I play. So don't tell me it doesn't break a sweat. So you could go on forever, probably talking if esports is sports, but what I think mostly is that there is a lot to take from sports. You can take, and what people do, at least in academic research, and well, maybe in some other ways, is that they take models or maybe frameworks from the traditional sports and then apply it to esport to see whether it works. And what I would like to see more is that you take things from esports and then apply it to sports, since esports is the one growing and sports is the one that's constantly getting like
falling down.
Yeah, falling down. Yeah, more. Yeah.
Yeah.
This gets really close to my business ideas, but so I think that main thing over there is that actually to make esports even more mainstream is to get like it resemble normal sports. So well, you have FIFA. FIFA is, for example, fairly popular. NHL, you could easily have little tournaments on that, and you actually have but the game developers haven't been able to do the like ice hockey or football like an esports game yet as good esports games as some other games like Counter-Strike and StarCraft and so on. But I think that the important aspect, especially when you are broadcasting and getting the games and getting more viewers to the games, is to make it more understandable that to the large audience is what's actually happening in the game. If you haven't been playing Counter-Strike and you're watching Counter-Strike game, you really don't know what's going on over there. It's also a challenge for some normal sports, like for example archery, that how like a viewer or viewer friendly they are. So do you know what's happening over there? So that's actually a task and a challenge for the game developers to make it so that you can have also large audiences to watch the games and still they are good games to play.
All right. Next question up here. What do you think about companies like Blizzard with Overwatch / Heroes of the Storm that concentrate on the esports side instead of the normal / casual players in exam you've had? So the people, if the companies focus on the esports and kind of put the casual players on the sidelines, what do you think of this approach?
So Heroes of the Storm is esports, okay? Well,
I think they
of course, if you play Overwatch and there's Overwatch League, and the license is $30 million for the team to get. And how many copies of Overwatch you have to sell to get that 30 million?
2 at least.
Yeah. So why shouldn't they focus on esports? Because they are making the money from the esports, and still the Overwatch is quite casual. You can play casual matches on it, but of course they are dedicating on esports because they have one of the most competitive league in the world.
Yeah, that's true, and I think they make the esports game so that there is the more casual game mode, and then there's the competitive game mode, like in many games. I'm not sure if the question tries to also figure out maybe there's why isn't Blizzard making a single player game, like non-internet, this kind of what you can play, which are really rare. That's what came to my mind. I mean, this question you can, I think, interpret it in many ways. But esports is currently a trend. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously wrong for Blizzard to try and make, let's say, PUBG type battle royale game. It probably wouldn't work as there is not enough space. But I think Blizzard just invested a huge amount of money and tried to make this and made this Overwatch League, which was good for them, and they got a lot of viewers, and they are engaging a lot of people and building the community at the same time, and that's what they get the value from, because the people are just going to stick as well. So I'm not sure, I'm just rambling. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Based on some statistics, there's daily more than 500 new game titles being published. So I think that if you want to play more casual games, you can easily choose some other games. And also back in the days and when I was selling Counter-Strike servers, you had of course the single player version of you can play Half-Life or something like that. Then you had this, we call them FFA, free for all servers, where you just went to play against all other players. And then you had a separate segment of customers who wanted to play tournament matches on dedicated servers that were ranked. So you have these non-ranked matches, more casual, and then you have training matches, and then you have ranked matches on tournament systems. So I think that there's room for all of these.
So there's room for all, but it just needs to pick which side it's want to focus on. And the next question is gonna be related to it, although we touched upon this a little bit while we were speaking earlier on. What do you need to think when you develop a game so that there is a possibility for esports? We touched upon this a little bit earlier on, but this is from a different angle. So what are your thoughts?
So besides the mechanics and the billions, I think that's what we concluded on this part previously. Yeah, and the community, yeah, of course.
One difficult thing that we are struggling with is the network code. It seems to be fairly difficult to do, so that there's it's basically that it even works. So, and then secondly, that you have good controls where actually the latency is not only about the network, but also the latency between your controls and the movement that you see on the screen. There was one article that there was actually in Micropit, there was this playability, and basically it turned out that it was the latency between your controls and what you see on the screen. So that's actually, as a coding from programming side, you need to do quite a lot of stuff to make it to work smoothly.
Well, the main principles, in my opinion, is it has to be easy to start. There has to be high skill cap, and it has to be viewable. So people can watch when you play, and that's what makes esports game, right?
Yes, so low barrier to start, high skill ceiling, and well, what esports revolves around is competition. So make it competitive, I guess.
Yeah, I was just looking.
And billions.
And billions, yes.
Yeah, billions, of course. Gotta have some billions.
It's a big help if you have billions.
Billions, billions, same
It
thing.
does help.
Yeah, it does help.
Yeah, just a little pocket change. Throw it in there.
If you have billions, I can be a community manager.
Don't we all? We're gonna take one more question before we wrap this up. So let's see. This is actually a really good one that I like. If you have some talent on a game like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, how do you contact the right people who can see your talent? Or how do you get in touch with the right people so that your talent can be shown to them?
Start playing in FPL, for example, where they team up with 5 other players and you play against each other, and there's a ranked system in there, you get points. That's like the Finnish superstar, just 70-year-old Juha Sergei Sala was found from the FPL servers, that he just grinded there when he was 14-year-old, and then he was picked by team because he was so good. And it helps if you build a team with your friends also, that you can get this team play going on.
Many players, they don't have friends.
Then you can go to the FPL server in CSGO, because then they team you up.
But if you play a game that there is no community like that, how the right people can find you?
They can't.
I think that's a fairly twisted view of esports, because I think the esports is about the team play and the community. So you find the friends. So at least when we had a clan, the other players in the clan, we spent very much, quite huge, lots of time together, organized like a LAN events, training sessions. So it's all about playing with your friends, not alone. Or I don't know, I haven't been playing games where you play alone, or at least esports games.
It's something that I wanted to also know in this part about the whole building community part and such. Didn't the original CSGO clan start from IRC servers?
Yeah,
IRC
the Counter-Strike clans. No, let's not put CSGO, because CSGO is new.
Yeah, sorry, Counter-Strike clans, but they started from original IRC days.
ICQ or IRC?
Matsi.
Yes, IRC or ICQ were the ones that were previously used, and usually you go their channel. There's this thing called Clan Base, where you can check the clans IRC channel and go the channel to challenge them, and then you might play against them a few times. They might become your friends. But nowadays, there are big platforms where you can actually connect up with people, like Steam. You can find there some Finnish friends maybe to play with. I'm just thinking that if I'm 14 or 15 and I really don't have any friends, and I'm just playing Counter-Strike, and my mom is like, that's not going to do any good. Like, who are you playing with? You don't have any friends. My mom wouldn't say that. But anyway, like how would I find the people? And I think that's the question. There's the Faceit application or Faceit web page where you can actually enroll for the SFPL, which is the Finnish. Is it Pro League or whatever it's called? I don't know where it's actually from, but with the SFPL. But there's this kind of hub where you find your fellow Finnish players, and then they rank you with your skill level. So you can go there. You don't have to go to the Finnish one. You can even go to the global one, and from there you can probably find people who you like to play with and who you think the game is running smoothly and everything's a-okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you have this casual side where you play just on your own, but when you if you want to progress, then you need to join the clan. You can found your new clan with your school friends, but then when you get better, you might switch clan, or you might be scouted by another clan to play for a little bit higher ranked game if your like personal skill rate is better than your friends' skills. And yeah, so that's it goes. Then you climb up the ladder until you are scouted by the NC or have you, or some Astralis or some other big names.
Yeah, and something on a little bit going back to the RC thingy. Something I noticed in Rainbow Six Siege is actually there's Reddit communities and Discord servers just to build, find somebody to play with. And that goes across any games that there are. That you can just go online and you can find easily communities that help you find playmates.
So yeah, maybe the answer to the question is find the correct community tools to connect up with the other players.
So is your message that one day you have to be so courage that you have to say aloud that I need teammates?
Yeah, basically, if you want to be good in esports, in a team-based game, then you have to have mates. But you can choose StarCraft 2, it's 1-on-1.
Because I know many players, they are just playing and not saying nothing.
It may look like that.
But they are not saying nothing to when they are just playing.
Are they typing? Because sometimes players communicate by typing, so that
No, 14 years old players,
might be a typer. Might type, yes.
Yeah, but it is Russians go away.
Ah, okay, yeah, well, yeah, okay.
Raspy, no stop.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely.
They don't have the courage to say that I need a team. I am good. Please go with me forward.
But there's going to be an answer for that, because there's going to be clubs. Basically,
The answer is that one day you have to be so courage that you say aloud that you need a team.
yeah, or you can go to these clubs that are starting up, like in many cities there are esports clubs that help you, that you train together, and then they.
They are just sitting quiet, so nobody sees you.
Then yeah, of course you need to have your own initiative as well. So you need to be, yeah.
What is the one thing that a player must do to get to the esports?
Have initiative is my word. Oma aloitteisuus.
Step up.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, with the last words being step up, we are going to step down. This has been the esports panel. Thank you all very much for watching and listening to us. The show's not going to be over just yet, because when I get my pen out of the way and I find my correct cheat sheet, she's not the only one who had one. We're going to have a little musical show here at the end, but before that, could we have a nice round of applause for our panelists here at the desk?
So I think I'm going to speak on all the behalf of the panelists. I think I want to thank for organizing this nice panel, and thank you for all who have been part of the organizing this panel. It's been great fun, and hopefully we've answered at least some of your questions.
Demot pasee sitten lopuksi niin kuin aina.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up, as you can see from behind me, we are gonna have. Yeah, you guys can get. You can reach with the server. Yeah, next up, we're gonna have a little musical show from Tommi Saloma. I don't know if he needs to have some little moment to set things up, but we're gonna have that one next, and then a few final words before we call it a quits here. So give me just a moment and we'll get the show up and running.
paralyzed. Thank you. Hello and thank you. I don't talk much because there were so many good talks already, so I'm gonna just play. And next, some retro stuff, retro gaming, Mega Man. Whoa, whoa, thank you. Great. Thank you. And time is running short, so time for the last song. Thank you, devs, and thank you, everyone. And I heard there's an after party, but you will hear probably more about it later. For the last song, I decided to do something that immediately came into my mind when I hear the word sports. And I think many who had their childhood in late 80s in Finland remember this song from sports TV broadcasts. It's called 1000 markan seteli. Oh, thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming here today. Remember that it's 28th next month, May, when there's the next DevsTalk is going to be held, and the subject was jobs, recruitment, and all that jazz. So, devs.tv will move forward, and you probably have some awesome things brewing. So remember to stay tuned and watch what these guys are going to come up with in the future, because I have this gut feeling that the thing that they are building right now is going to change the whole games industry. And I don't know, I want to, well, at least I feel like I'm curious enough to really want to stay tuned and see what you are gonna come up with. But, okay, Erik, what is going to happen next?
Well, I'm not gonna admit anything about that whole changing the game industry, but it's probably gonna be pretty global and huge and big and awesome, so stay tuned. Also, that you didn't mention, but thanks again to Tommi Saloma for this show. The picture disappeared, so screw you, Sante. Thank you very much for this show. It was awesome. And
especially Mega Man. Mega Man was my first boyfriend.
And thank you for all the gamers who are...
Definitely. Thank you for all the community. Yes, and everybody who was watching the stream.
Yeah, for how this is going to continue from here on out, well, we have this place available for next about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Let me check. About 40 minutes. You guys can mingle around. There's refreshments back there if you haven't used them. Feel free. When we are moving on from here at 9 o'clock sharp p.m., we are moving on to 8-Bit Brewery, which is close to Kamppi, Lönnrotin Katu 11. So if you guys want to come and hang out with us and chat with us and maybe chat with the speakers if they want to stick around and be available, that's still a possibility, but if you want to make sure, find them still. They are still all around here. Go talk with them. Step up. Otherwise, chat around, learn, have fun. Thank you all.
Thank you.